the sewing cat. I'm going to show you how to make this easy fit top. So come on in, I'll show you how. Okay, so we've cut out our top. You're going to have a front panel and a back panel. Both of these are going to be cut on the fold of the fabric. If you need any tips on cutting out, we'll do another tutorial that you'll be able to look at online for tips on cutting out, but it's very simple. So you're going to cut a front and a back, and then we're also going to have some smaller bits. We're going to have 2 cups like this, okay, which are cut on the straight of grain, and then you're also going to have one long bias strip. It's important that you cut this on the bias, so you're going to cut it crossways on the fabric, so it's got a bit of stretch, and that's going to be for our neck. So we're going to lay down our back panel face up on the table, and then I'm putting my front panel on top with our right sides together. So this time the front panel is face down. So just make sure when you're looking, your 2 right sides are facing each other. Like that, you'll see the front side is more scooped than the back, and that's correct. What we're going to do is line up our shoulder seams, which is here and here, and we're going to put plenty of pins ready for when we stitch along there. So we're going to put a pin at one end and then one at the other, like that, through the fabric. Make sure you've got nice fresh pins. Blunt pins may damage the fabric. So all the way along. You're going to want a few more pins than you would normally use in cotton fabric, because the nature of this fabric is that it drapes, which means it's going to kind of move, which is great when we're wearing it, but it just means it's a little bit more difficult when we're sewing it. I'm going to leave the neck edge open, and then I'm going to repeat on the same on the other side. So down here, one on the other end, and then just a few more pins, keeping the raw edges together. If you're stitching, your cutting isn't perfectly straight, don't worry on a top like this, it won't matter too much. You'll see mine aren't perfectly straight, but that's going to be fine because it's just going to mould to our body shape when we have it on, like that. Okay, so that's both our shoulder seams pinned, and then we're going to machine along here. We're going to use a 1 centimetre seam allowance. On a brother sewing machine you can keep the edge of the foot on the edge of the fabric. Just a regular 80 size needle is going to be fine for this. Again, make sure it's not going blunt or anything, or that will damage the fabric. I'm going to do a little reinforcing stitch at the beginning, so go forwards and backwards 2 or 3 stitches to reinforce it, and then you're going to stitch all the way along with a regular stitch length down to the end and a forwards and backwards knot here, and then we're going to repeat the same on the other side. Then a bit later we're going to start at our underarm point here, and we're going to pin and stitch all the way down the side seam, obviously leaving our sleeve ends open and our neck open and our hem so that we can get into the top when we finished it. Okay, and then we stitch the shoulder seams, and then the next step is we're going to stitch the underarm seam. So we're leaving the short edge here because this is going to be our opening for our sleeve, and then I'm going to stitch from there all the way down to the bottom. So it's going to be that curved under edge seam like that. And we're going to do the same on both sides. So we've already got our right sides together, so we don't need to worry about that. And we're just going to put 2 edges together. Pin just as before. You're going to want plenty of pins, and it's always best with this fabric to pin on a flat surface because it is going to move around. And pin all the edges together. It's a very simple top to make, this one, and I find it kind of suits all shapes and sizes, and it's nice and cool for the summer, which is what we want. Pin all the way down there, and I'm going to repeat that on the other side. Obviously not the bottom straight edge, because that's how we're going to get in and out of our top. So that is your top. So we've got our neck here, 2 sleeves on that side and one the other, and then our long straight hem piece. Okay, so I'm now going to show you how to overlock the raw edges. So we've got a raw edge here, and it may fray, so we want to make sure that we overlock that to keep that nice and neat. Most machines now are going to have an overlocking stitch on there. If you haven't, you can use a zigzag stitch, but an overlocking stitch is going to be better. On the brother machine, we've got a really nice stitch, and also a foot that comes with it. It'll be foot G on your machine. So have a look in your manual for overcasting or overlocking. When you put the foot on, you'll see that there is a little gap in the foot here, and that's where we're going to keep the edge of our fabric in the gap in our foot, and a little pin out the back. It means it's going to hold our stitching out nice and straight, and that's what we're looking for. So that foot just clips onto the machine like that, and then we're going to whiz down, this time keeping the edge of our fabric in that edge of the foot. I'm just going to do one of the seams down here just to show you. So we're going to whiz down, so edge of the fabric in that gap in the foot. The end, and I'm just going to cut my threads, and always pull your fabric towards the back, and then you can see we've got a nice overlocked edge there. nice and neat, and we'll do that on all of the seams that we've done. So all 4 seams we're going to neaten the same way. Okay. Right, so we've overlocked all our seams. Now I'm going to look at doing the cuffs. So I'm going to take the 2 cuff pieces, one like this, and I'm going to fold it so we've got the 2 short sides together and with our right sides facing as before. So we want the 2 right sides of the fabric together. And I'm going to stitch just this short edge across here, just with our straight stitch. I'm going to stitch that all the way down with a 1 centimetre seam allowance. So moving a little bit, so you do want to pin this. I'm cheating here, but it should be okay. And I'm just going to stitch down. Where is that one? There. 2 right sides together, forwards and backwards to knot it at the beginning, all the way down to the end, and forwards and backwards again. So just that small seam there, okay, along that top edge. And I'm going to repeat that with the other side. So that's our cuffs made. Now I'm going to open them and fold them in half. So I want the seam to go in the middle, so I'm going to fold that over. We've made a tube. We're going to fold it like this. So this time the right sides are facing outwards, and we want these 2 raw edges together. And the seam then is all enclosed in the middle. So it's just going to make our little cuff that's going to go on the ends and neaten the edges. So I now need to go back to my main top that we made earlier. I need to turn it so the right sides are facing out. So you put your hand in, turn it through, and your right sides are then facing out. And then I'm going to put my arm in the sleeve here, and I'm going to put the cuff on. What I want is the seam of our cuff, because we've got 1 seam, and I want that one to be at the bottom, so I'm just going to make sure that it's going to go here on our underarm part, and I'm going to put that over the top like that. So this is our underarm seam. Yay! Where is it gone? There. So I'm going to line that up, our underneath underarm seam. I'm going to line it up with the top here. So we've got 3 edges now, and we need to make sure that all 3 edges are together. So when I've got those together, I'm going to put a pin to hold it, because again this georgette will move. This lovely green georgette floral that we're using here is going to be a new one that we're going to release for the next Owl and Sewing Cat show on Create and Craft, which is going to be on the 24th of this month, 24th of May, in the morning at 10 o'clock. So making sure you've got all your raw edges together. And go all the way around. The navy version that I'm wearing today, which is one of my favourites, is already available to order on our website, so you can get it as a complete kit with all the fabric, and that way you make sure you've got the correct fabric for the correct job, which is really important on this top. You want it to flow nice and to feel nice when you're wearing it. So I've got all the raw edges together here, and I'm going to stitch around in a circle here to attach that cuff. Take that one out of the machine, remove all those pins, and then I'm going to repeat the same on the other cuff. We will neaten those as well. So we've got this raw edge, but that cuff folds back that way, and that's attached onto your sleeve like that. Okay, so you've got your nice neat finish now all the way around, and it gives it a little bit of weight on the sleeve, which is nice. This edge in here will just be overlocked, just like we've done before. So in a minute I'm just going to whiz around and overlock that. So I'm going to repeat the same thing now on the other sleeve to attach it, and then do the overlocking or neatening on that seam on the inside. Right. So we've put the cuffs on, now we're going to neaten the neck edge. The easiest way is going to be to put on a binding. So we've cut our long piece, I'm going to fold it in half like this and stitch across that short edge. So just 1 piece, I'm just going to do a straight stitch across there. Place that into the foot, go forwards and backwards at the beginning, a few stitches, and when we get to the end we're going to go forwards and backwards again. This is cut on the bias, so it may stretch a little bit, but that's going to help us when we do our neckline. I'm going to take that one out. Okay. So we've joined that, so we've now got a big loop. What we want to do is on our top, I want to find the centre back, because I really want to have that seam running along the centre back. So I'm going to fold the top in half. I'm looking on the back neck, which is going to be the higher piece. Fold that in half, and I can find my centre back there, and I'm going to put a pin just to mark the centre back, like that. Then I'm going to pin on this piece here. I'm going to do it with a single fabric onto the right side. So I want my seam where that pin is, and I'm going to put the 2 right sides together. So the right side of the binding to the right side of the fabric, and pin that one in place, like that. Okay, then I'm going to work my way around, always with our right sides together, and pin in as we go. Because the neck is cut on the bias, it may stretch a little bit, so you may need to ease that in. Just see how you go. So pin it all the way around, lots of pins, and then if you need to, you can always readjust that when needed. Over the side, so that's our back done. Going to do the same around this side, just to get it lined up at the shoulder seams. I'm trying to keep the raw edges together. They are, one's on a curve and one's on the bias, so it's a little bit tricky. I'm going to flop that one over. So this is going to fit all the way around the neckline. It looks like it's a bit tight, and that's because it's on the bias, but it won't be. And then I'm going to continue pinning all the way around the whole neck, and then I'm going to stitch that on with a straight seam. The important thing is to make sure that you've got your two right sides of the fabric together. Especially on this green, the right and the wrong can look very similar. So it's all pinned all the way around, and I'm going to stitch 1 centimetre in from this edge, from the inside neck edge, all the way around in a complete circle. So laying the fabric underneath, making sure that the raw edges are together, forwards and backwards to the little knots. It doesn't really matter where you start and stop. I usually try and avoid doing this right at the centre front, just in case there's any slight adjustment needed, and just work your way around the whole thing. I'm pulling it a little bit when I go, just to make sure that we've got it nice and flat and that there's no puckers. I'm keeping my left hand in front, and I can feel the fabric going through, and again I can just feel and make sure that there are no puckers forming. Go right round till we get back to where we started, go back over your knot and then go forwards and backwards just to reinforce it. Cut the thread, take it out of your machine. And then I'm going to whiz all these pins out all the way around, making sure that you've got every one. And then when it comes to the neckline now, we've got two options. You can either machine this, or we can do it by hand. If it's your first time doing a binding, probably doing it by hand is going to be slightly easier. So what you would do, the neck binding is then sewn on like this. Okay, we've still got this raw edge here. So what you want to do is to fold this raw edge in. So we're going to fold it like that by 1 centimetre. You can see that, fold that raw edge in by 1 centimetre, and then fold it over again, and that's going to cover your stitching then. And then you can hand stitch all the way down that edge, nice and neatly, just catching the edge of this binding with the edge of your fabric, and then from the right side you'll have a nice neat binding like that. If you want to, you can try machining this. So the easiest way is to fold it the same way, so you're folding that raw edge over by 1 centimetre, folding it again, but you want it to overlap your stitching slightly. Okay, so make sure it's overlapping your stitching. You can feel that it's overlapping, and then you want to carefully pin that all the way around, and then we'll flip it onto the right side, and as long as that hem of your binding is overlapping by a little bit, if you sink stitch, which means doing a line of stitching in that gap there, exactly on top of the seam, then it should catch the front and the back at the same time. If it's your first time doing it and it wobbles a little bit, then you miss the edge, you can always go back and just hand sew those bits as well. So you're folding it over and over again and making sure it overlaps more than the stitching. So you shouldn't see on this side, you don't want to be able to see any of the stitching. We want it to overlap just by a couple of millimetres. Use your fingers, and when you're machining it, you'll be able to feel that as you go around the edge. All right, have fun. So I've machined my neck on, like I was just saying earlier. So I've gone around and done a line of sink stitching in there. Needs a bit of a press and that'll be finished. And then the last thing to do is the hem on the top. So it's always a good idea just to try it on, just check you're happy with the length, and go ahead and do the hem on the bottom. So to hem it, we're going to fold the raw edge under by 1 centimetre and then under again. It's a good idea to press that or pin that all the way around, and then we're going to stitch around. If you've got an overlocker, you might want to just overlock the edge and then just turn it up once and stitch it. I'm going to do it the traditional way, so I'm just going to do a hem, double hem. So I'm going to fold it under 1 centimetre and then under again, and then machine all the way around the bottom edge, and this will be our top finished. So I'm just going to do the hem. I've just folded it under and under again, and then I'm going to whiz all the way around that bottom edge. It would be a good idea, as I said, to press this or to pin it. I'm just doing it by eye. Feel free to do that. We're going to go all the way around the bottom edge. Now see, I've done the hem and my top's finished. It's a nice, quick, easy pattern. So the pattern is available on the Owl and Sewing Cat website, so just www.owlandsewingcat.com, where you can find the pattern for the easy fit top. We've also got it as kits, so you could buy it as a sewing kit as well, with the navy fabric version that I was seeing earlier. This fabric version is going to be on our Create and Craft show, which will be in the Thursday 24th of this month at 10 o'clock. I hope you love making your top. Thank you for watching, and do send in any photos if you've made the top yourself and enjoying wearing it. Thank you. Bye.